our favorite song is first before we start. All right. Welcome to the Village of Cottage Grove Village Board of Trustees meeting on Monday, October 6th, 2025. This is a hybrid meeting, both virtually on Zoom with the link at the top of the agenda and in person at Village Hall. It is 6:30, so I'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted, so we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this is the public appearances, public's opportunity to speak. We don't have a packed house tonight. As there's no one in person, is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to speak? And if you do, you just raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyone. So we'll move to number 5, discuss and consider the minutes of the village board meeting on September 15th, 2025, linked as a PDF in the agenda.
I make the motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
There's a motion by Murphy and a second by Severson. Any other discussion on the matter? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. We'll move on to number 6, unfinished business. This is like in record time lately. A, discuss possible acquisition of property located at 616 North Main Street. We can move into closed session under item 11 at the end of the meeting if the board wishes to do so. There's a memo by myself which kind of outlines the process the board has undertook over the last year or so of accumulating some of the properties in TID 9. And again, remember 616 North Main Street is outside of the TID. It did have a recent price reduction, which is why I'm bringing this back to the board. And if we'd like to consider a negotiating strategy in closed session, we can do that.
I'd like to at least talk about it, if we can, in closed.
Okay. Agree to talk about it, so we'll move into closed session at the end of the meeting for that item. Great. We'll move on to B, discuss and consider next steps regarding a fire EMS study request for proposals. Again, there's a memo by me in the agenda, and this is because we did not receive formal proposals to the RFP that was released in August and closed in September. We did ask Matt to follow up with some, to kind of get some feedback for why we didn't get submissions. There, 3 firms responded back to us. They all kind of indicated that they would be interested in submitting to the RFP. And so those responses and their feedback are listed on the first page of the memo. And I think that there's some things that we probably have to discuss tonight and to kind of keep us on track with this. One is, I guess, the direction the board wants to take. Do we want to reach out and have 2 of them provide us with a proposal and then come to a joint meeting? Do we want to re-release the RFP at a different time? Do we want to rescope it? Do we want to do nothing? I think were my options. So I think I open it up to the board for comments on what you'd all like to do.
I would like to table this till next meeting. Couple of reasons why. The town board is also discussing tonight, so it'd be interesting to see what their feedback is. Secondly, there is a meeting in Cambridge on Wednesday about EMS service over there, and some decisions that come out of there might dictate some realignment on the eastern half of Dane County. So I'd like to just table it for a meeting if we could.
Open it up to others for comments. Heidi?
One thing that, thinking about budgeting for this for next year though, because we do want to have kind of some money earmarked, because we know we want to go forward with some kind of RFP. And so I think we'd hope that this would be, the RFPs would be responded to in time to incorporate that into the budget. So if we can get something in just like a window, like a kind of,
Placeholder.
yeah, placeholder in our budget process for that, just so we have something set aside.
I think that's one of my concerns too, is if the town decides not to move forward, right, then we bear all the costs. And in that case, then we can also rescope. So that's why I'm just saying, let's just table it for one more meeting.
Cameron?
Because this is kind of a board request, what dollar amount would you like to show in the, budget review, draft budget? If it was me, my recommendation conservatively would be 40,000, which is the high end of the full cost. And then obviously that can be revised through the budget process, but just wanted to get feedback from the board.
Yeah, I think 40 as a placeholder would be appropriate.
Sounds good. So that will just that will show up in the administration recommended budget as kind of like a board recommendation.
Mm-hmm. What? It's okay with staff and we don't kind of derail the budget process. I'm fine with tabling until next meeting as well, to get, the town's direction, I guess, first. But I do think that this study is something that we should try and, in my opinion, keep on the same timeline. And I would be very open to having PAA and Wisconsin Policy Forum submit and then have interviews, whether it's a joint meeting if the town is interested, or just with the village board if we are kind of going solo with it, but I'd like to keep on the same timeline.
Would you like a formal motion to table?
We can just.
Okay. I move we table to next meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Severson, second by Murphy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. All right. New business. Discuss and consider Resolution 2025-23, recognizing pedestrian safety. This resolution actually came to us from a nonprofit group that asked us to have this on our agenda, and we've done it in previous years as well.
I move approval of Resolution 2025-23.
And I would second.
Motion by Severson, second by Murphy. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. We have new item B, discuss and consider applying for non-state grant program funding for local building projects. There's a memo from Cameron in the agenda. And I'll turn it over to Cameron if you want to brief us on it.
As direction from the board, we were asked to kind of look for other opportunities for funding, grants, kind of any way to help defray the cost. Chief Gary forwarded me this opportunity that I think would be great to apply for. It is a very competitive grant. It's not a difficult grant to apply for. So my thought would be to get the statement of values from the architects for that space, submit it, and hope for the best. So I don't have a dollar amount that we'd be applying for at this time, but can keep the board updated. So just looking for permission.
Questions or comments for Cameron?
Thanks for looking for opportunities to help bring down the costs and other funding options for us. So I appreciate that. So I would make a motion to apply for the non-state grant program funding for local building projects as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Murphy, a second by Dahl. Any other comments or questions or discussion?
I would just say, Cameron, go right up to that 2 million cap. Ask for it. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Number 8, reports from village boards, commissions, and committees. Joint Review Board was held on Wednesday, September 17th at 4:30 p.m. We discussed and considered the minutes. We reviewed the reports and the status of the active TID districts as required by state statute. And we approved 2 resolutions acknowledging the filing of the annual report in compliance with the annual meeting requirements, which were for the Monona Grove School District and the Sun Prairie School District, and then we adjourned. Cameron, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah.
From a TID perspective.
So there'll be a resolution in front of the board on April 6, 2026. So really, we could, at any point between now and really then, we could pass a resolution to terminate TID 5. Why you wait for the last minute as possible is that our clock for our final reporting requirement starts by that resolution date. So that's why we wait till the latest possible, gives us the amount of time just in case something would happen that would cause delays for that reporting. I don't anticipate you have a year from the date that you submit the resolution. So I do plan to have the final report sometime in September/October of 2026. But that resolution is going to be upcoming.
Any other comments about joint review? All right. How about utility commission from Chris?
We met Wednesday, September 17th. Approved the minutes, approved the bills. We discussed the construction agreements related to Quail South and Tierney, the farm interceptor, approved those. Approved awarding the farm interceptor project to lowest possible bidder. We had this CMAR annual report from the DNR, which we got an A on. We discussed and adopted the water and sewer budgets. We discussed and approved a deferred payment plan for water and sewer impact fee for 2848 County Highway BB. And we discussed the update from the payment processor snafu that we had. And then we just got some updates from Kyla about some of the projects around town. And then we adjourned.
Any comments or questions about utility? All right.
Just one quick comment. So through that board action of approval of the budget, there was authorization to, at some point in 2026, conduct a conventional rate study that will help recover the cost for the well 2 improvement that's going in and the north looping project that's going on. Those rates wouldn't be effective until 2027.
Moving on to the library board that met on Wednesday, September 17th at 6:30 p.m. We discussed and considered our cost to continue library board budgets. We talked a lot about programming, kind of went over some of our statistics and some of the upcoming events, which include lunch and learns, hopefully about the revaluation at some point. A lot of STEAM events, which is awesome in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. We have a preteen author coming this fall. We are hitting up every single 4K no school day and then no school day for the school district as well. And I think the cookbook book club is probably the most exciting new event that we have. We are meeting next October 15th. Any questions for me on the library board? Okay, we'll move on to Deer Grove EMS Commission, which is, Pete, if you want to give us an overview and then we can have discussion. And then I do want to clarify, we have a couple budgets on the agenda tonight, but we can, I have some thoughts on it, but we can get to that after you give your report and we have some discussion.
Okay, very good. Yeah, we met on Thursday, September 18th at 6:30. Typical items: approved the minutes from the prior meeting, approved August financials, the bills, write-offs, aged accounts. We did have a number of really cool correspondence feedback. The collective bargaining agreement is basically done. There was an agenda item for an update, but it's basically done, as everybody knows. There was an update from Chief on the new vehicle. We got a VIN assigned, and so that's in process. Don't have timing yet. Then we discussed and considered the 2026 budget, and there was a lot of discussion around the budget, particularly the office manager position. Right now, it's a 16-hour a week position. There was in the packet a recommendation to go to a 40-hour a week full-time position. And I think there was a lot of debate around that. We did not approve the position, but the budget was approved with the funding for the position. I do have some thoughts on that. And then we adjourned. So that was pretty much it.
There is a discuss and consider the Deer Grove budget, and there's also more further down the discuss and consider the fire district budget. Back in, oh my gosh, was it all the way April, early May, we approved kind of our budget process, which is more of an inclusive, we'll take a look at the budgets, the entire budget together, and I feel a lot more comfortable going through budget review, budget workshop, village board workshop, and ultimately with the approvals in order to see what the overall tax levy is, how all the budgets fit together, kind of continuing through the process. So I would like to not discuss and consider and approve individual budgets before going through the whole process, if that's all right with the board. Okay. But is there some feedback that you want to get from the board, from the budgets?
No, I guess the discussion, and there was quite a bit of discussion around the office manager position. And right now, as everybody knows, it's a 16-hour-a-week position. It has been recommended in the budget supports taking it to a full-time position. And with the study that we talked about earlier on the agenda, until we get through both the facility and staffing discussion, it seems like we need to walk before we run. And I think there is some discussion around, do we take it to 20 hours so that we can make sure we get the critical elements done and then evaluate future? But it was set up for funding, and I think, Cam, you and I spoke. The budget itself was presented to support that. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're approving the position, but when the budget's approved, now the commission can approve the position without the individual communities, and that's where this budget being aligned amongst communities is really important.
Okay. Go ahead, Paula.
Sure. I would just add that at the last commission meeting, we didn't really get in the meat and potatoes of hours and staffing. I think both of you were online listening because the other municipalities were saying it's discuss and consider budget numbers only. And so we really didn't have a conversation on whether or not we thought this was needed. I passed out a document at that time, and if I may share my screen, quick, is that okay? I'm asking the presiding officer.
As long as you don't have anything for any type of closed session also pulled up, just in tabs or anything.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
No. Let me just share my screen.
And then we do have Chief here too, if we want to have just a feedback discussion, just so that we start that process.
So I just wanted to kind of touch base because as we were evaluating this, things weren't quite clicking for me. And I took the two job descriptions side by side and looked at there would be 12 unique or new things that the position would be doing. And so I wanted to just take a very objective view and crunch the numbers. And so what they're looking to do is increase, basically a 60% increase in duties. And yet the hours worked from what is going now to 40 would be 150% increase in hours. And so again, that didn't jive well with me in terms of the numbers. I did hand out this proposal, which would have been a compromise, and moving to 20 hours a week while we do our due diligence on future staffing and such. But again, as I said, we didn't really get to discuss this at that meeting. And because we didn't get to discuss this or really anything at that meeting, I voted against that. I do not believe that it is fiscally responsible to just hand over a pot of money without having a defined plan. I know we wouldn't do that at the village level. I know that some of our staff would like new positions, but the money's just kind of not there. And so the process really disturbed me. And so if that still goes forward, I will not vote for this budget because I don't believe that position is warranted at 40 hours a week. That's my opinion. But the fact that we couldn't even have conversation or a compromise position was very troubling. So I just wanted to share that feedback.
Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I think the one thing is, like Paula had said, the budget was proposed with money for an unapproved position. So it's a little disturbing that we've got something funded that's not approved in terms of the 3 communities. If we do go forward with the budget as proposed, there needs to be some condition that the position would have to be approved by the village board before we actually create it, because we're creating a new 40-hour position. What I would ask the board is, at least what I would like to do is go back to the commission and convert this position to a 20-hour-a-week job. And then once this study is done and we determine whether or not we need a full-time position, that it could be funded out of the Deer Grove fund balance. And Cam, you and I spoke about that. So we wouldn't have to, say it was mid-year, we wouldn't have to come back budgeting-wise. It would be covered under fund balance. And then in the following year, we would budget for the full-time staff position. So that's what I would like to see if we have some agreement on that.
So what I'm hearing is that this will be an agenda item at the next commission meeting, like a standalone agenda item. And I think, just in terms of my feedback, it might be helpful to have, because I know you said like there's 18 extra duties, but you're asking for a 50%, you had numbers, so I went along with it. 12 more duties for, 20 more hours or whatever it was. And I think maybe a percent effort on what that looks like, because it's not obviously like a 1 duty to 1 hour. And so maybe it'd be helpful to see a breakdown of what the percent effort and how that equals the full-time position with the duties. I have spent, I've spent a long time meetings, and I do see how we have, and the district has really put emphasis on kind of those frontline workers, those making sure that we had full paramedics staff 24/7 at both of our stations, and that's where the emphasis has been. And the district has grown, it's doubled, and the one position that hasn't has been the administrative support. And so I can actually see how this is now coming back as a need for the district. I think that there's a lot of opportunity by having a full-time person in terms of efficiencies. The things that aren't getting done could be getting done. And then the fact that it's an EMT level position, or they would have to have an EMT license, and they could go out during the day and help with lift assist or whatever, and take some of the burden off. That was written in here.
I know it was written in there, but I guess it's fit for the candidate or the strong internal, right? So I think really the question is, what is mission critical? Paying bills, paying our employees, and bridging the gap until we have clarity on where the district is going relative to both facilities and personnel.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm with Paula. If this comes to us without an adjustment, there's going to be a lot of dialogue, and I'd rather get ahead of it. And I totally understand the position of we want to have like the one package coming, but I think this is something that we should discuss and align on.
Yeah, I think maybe, feedback for Chief too is to have maybe some alternative scenarios then of, how to mid-year starts, how this goes perhaps from 20 hours to a full-time. Like, eventually it's going to have to be a full-time position if the trends continue with Deer Grove EMS, and like, what does that look like? What does that path look like? I do think, so again, I think there's some operational efficiencies that could be gained by having the full-time position. I know that it's going to be open. It's not just going to be internal candidates that's promoted or reassigned to this position is going to be opened up, which I appreciated having in here. I can see where there's more discussion that's needed, but I am supportive of the position and the current budget, though, as stated.
The budget as stated with a full-time position layered in, or are you talking about
The
alternate?
budget that was approved. I mean, I look forward to seeing what that conversation is like at the commission level, and how it's maybe if there's some perceived way of kind of stepping this up. But I do approve of the way it is listed and was approved by the commission.
I think what's helpful, and maybe I'll bring some of that data to the board, is looking at other EMS services. So for instance, Sun Prairie, which is Sun Prairie Fire and EMS, has a full-time business manager, right? But they're serving both sides. I think about Fitch-Rona EMS, which runs triple the amount of calls we have, and they only have a part-time accounts manager. So part of this is also not just this particular position, but really what kind of tasks are being done among the lieutenants, captain, deputy chief, right? Because other services aren't having, it's not an apples to apples comparison. And so I've requested that we have a general staffing conversation to really align those duties. Because right now it doesn't make fiscal sense to me when I see other municipalities doing the opposite. So, but I can certainly gather that data and bring it to a future meeting.
I guess I'd also, this position isn't on the agenda for discussion tonight, but it is kind of part of the budget process. So as we go into our budget review committee and village board workshop, I think it would be helpful, Chief, to see where we are because I heard about overtime and such for this position that we're accruing now. So like some of that would go away with actually having the correctly allocated time for this job plus additional duties. So I think kind of understanding that to see, what, the full picture of what the position is like now to what it would go to, does that make sense? Okay.
And I think that would include, if they go full-time, how much insurance and stuff and benefits would be, so that we can get a full idea of what it is. And then if you can break it out between like what they have now, what a 20-hour a week would be, and then a full-time, just so that we can actually see the individual breakdown.
I guess my other question about the position, like we've talked a lot about getting reimbursements and such, like is that helping with more paperwork and more, like, is there more paperwork due to like the way insurance claims are with people? And so like, is the workload bigger because of different administrative things that have changed over time? I don't know if that's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all factored into the request. And basically 2 years worth of data that we've paid closer attention to in the past as we've built out and added extra full-time paramedic positions. We've never needed individual board positions or individual board permission to add those positions. They've been approved by approving the budget. So that's how we've gone about this in the past. So having to come back a second time and approve a position that's already been funded would be new territory for us. I think comparing us to other departments, we would need to look at the totality of the departments. As we referenced, Fitch-Rona has a full-time chief and 2 full-time deputy chiefs. We have a full-time chief and a part-time office manager person along with line personnel after that. So there's there's differences in our department structures that's why a decision was made in the manner with which it was. Some of the tasks that were identified as some of the 25% tasks were some of the most labor intensive and might take 4 hours per week by themselves. So I do have a layout of what we believe a 40-hour week looks like. I started off asking for 20-80 hours, realizing afterwards that no one actually works 20-80 in a year because of holidays and vacations. So we're well over the hours necessary to fill the role with how we believe it would distribute.
I guess I would also like clarification on if we're contracting this position out, because there seemed to be some conversation with the Village of Deerfield also utilizing the skills of this position, and I would like that spelled out.
Sure, that was all tentative discussions. They now have a new village administrator, so there's actually someone to have discussions with over there. It was added as an additional duty to the job description to see, but it wasn't added in the hour allocation because there's nothing specific. It's all just discussion right now.
Yeah, and Chief, I totally get this budget was put forward with the full-time position, but it essentially creates a full-time position that isn't created. Basically, it's funding it, but then the commission then has the authority to create a position. So it's kind of a cart before the horse, particularly with the EMS fire study that's, obviously not underway, but it's going to occur, and the landscape of that may change how we look at staffing. Once you create a full-time position, we're not going backwards. It's much harder to go backwards than it is to go forwards. And so, to create a budget that increases the hours to make sure payroll and accounts payable or the mission-critical things are taken care of. I understand there's a lot of other things that are going on here, but it's something that we can then revisit when the need is mapped out post-study. And it can be funded through fund balance, and it doesn't have to come back to the
And
board.
I guess I would have to add that mission critical is making sure that we get the revenue that we are supposed to get. That's a big component of this ask, would be that the new increased hours position be directly involved in the reimbursement process that they're not right now. We base our budget off of an expected amount of revenue from calls for service, and if we don't meet that number, unfortunately, we may have to come back and ask for more dollars, which in our organization's history hasn't happened. We do have a fund balance that we'd be able to weather the storm, but we've set the revenue of this budget based off of having a person being directly involved with that. So it had been mission critical. It is mission critical. It will be mission critical going forward, more so than just paying bills and paying staff. There's more to the mission than just those simple two items.
Right, absolutely, but EMS/MC is a real critical part of that collections, and that's why we have them, right?
They are, but we also need to do our work to double check on EMS/MC's work. We can't just let them kind of freelance, if you will, and do the work. We have to verify that they're doing what we ask them to do. That's part of medical billing, is that you're double checking everyone else's work in the process. Simply letting it happen, and if something were to go awry, saying I didn't know it happened, it won't fly with Medicare, Medicaid, or any of the insurance payers.
I guess I do have a question on how the administrative position would be evaluated in the RFP. That was,
Are you asking me or asking the group?
I'm mostly asking myself. I'm just trying to look at it. I don't know if that having the information from the study is going to help us or help the commission make a decision on whether they should have a full-time administrative
I don't necessarily think
manager.
that's the question. The question is, what does the future state look like as it relates to facilities and associated staffing? And then once we've got that future state, then the staffing piece kind of comes out, right? But right now, we're going to create a position without having that future state established, and that's the disconnect to a certain degree.
So that's a very good point, but I think future state for EMS, we're 5 to 10, we're looking at a 5-year, 10-year plan with that RFP, and this is a need identified in 2025. So I think I'm still back with the funding the budget and letting the commission work through the position.
And my understanding of the study is it's to ensure of operational need and may not have taken a look at the administrative need. And it was effectively to take a look back at what was done in 2022, just to double check. And if there was nothing, if there was no nails to hit, then they weren't going to hit it from the 2022, but focus on going forward what the response needs were of the municipality. As President Kel Nelson already said, we know that we have a need now. As we add staff to meet the future need, it's only going to be greater. And the hope would be that we can get ahead of that and meet the need of the future,
Right, and I think
along with today.
the budget discussions we had last year were really ultimately like what is best for the district at this time, and that was to add those paramedic positions to Deerfield, and I think that this is what is best for the district at this time, and what is the need for the district, and it's to add this full-time position. Go ahead, Heidi.
So I think we have kind of a list of things that we'd like to see as we consider like the full budget as a whole, similar to like when other departments ask for, a new person. So I guess you know some of the questions that we want to have addressed at Budget Review Committee and Budget Workshop.
So it's the allocation of time, I think was a big one. And I know Paula offered to reach out to municipalities. I think maybe that's a better chief ask of Chief to go and talk to the other districts around to get that information. If that's, unless you feel like you want to do that duty.
I mean, a lot of
I
it is
think-
public information, and I've collected a lot of the data anyway. So I'm happy to share what I've found.
I think, yeah, maybe working with Chief on that. I mean, he just had, I think, a couple of good points on having, you know, the entire operational structure, not just what that manager does. I think I'd like to see it from a big picture.
If there is information collected in advance, it would be really helpful to have it in the packet ahead of time so we can look it over the weekend rather than just have it at the meeting.
Which means Thursday at noon is the deadline
For next week?
for budget review would be on Monday, yeah.
Okay, you got it.
Cameron.
Okay, just process-wise, so IGA requires Deer Grove EMS to submit a budget by October 1st. So Town of Cottage Grove is voting on this budget request tonight. Deerfield's voting on this budget request next Monday. So the same time we're doing budget review. So if there's not further discussion at the commission level on the 16th, one, I think somebody should be reaching out to the other communities saying, you know, we understand you possibly approved the budget. However, we would maybe want there to be a revision to this request, or there is a pending revision to this request. Two, if that discussion's not happening until the 16th, you're going to have a different budget prepared for the 13th, which is completely fine, than the village workshop on the 27th. So just knowing that, I mean, we can tell the budget review committee that that's what's going to happen, but just setting expectations in the packet and explaining what the current state is and what is still being worked through. But with the other two communities, kind of making sure we're aware of what their timelines are in order to, because we have to unanimously approve this by the end of the year. And so just kind of making sure that everybody's on the same page. So I don't know, Cindy, if you wanted to take the point on making sure the other communities are aware of where we're at.
Sure, I can do that.
And then for my perspective, when I'm preparing a budget for the 13th, Matt and I are working through, it's my intention to include what was passed at the commission level, and then there can be discussion with the additional attachments, but I don't know what the expectation is for Matt and I as far as what dollar amounts to present in the draft version of the budget.
Right. So the way I see it is that it's the budget that came from the commission is what we need to see at budget review. I think the additional information gives us opportunities and gives budget review to give that feedback, but ultimately it's going to be a commission decision on the position and when it starts and how many hours and like all of those things. But making sure that the funding, we're aware of the funding, it has to come from the commission, which has already been decided and given to us, but happy to give extra feedback and discussion that then can be taken to the commission just in terms of that position.
I think Chris requested, though, the cost to continue like as is, right? You wanted to see the different budgeting. You wanted to see what is now and then 20 and then the 40, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't that be helpful to have prior to budget review?
Ideally, though, I think how I would present that would be what was requested in the packet, but then the supplemental items that show the different versions of that budget, if that's what I'm hearing from this group. Because what my fear is having 3 different versions of a budget and a department recommended budget could be confusion to the readers, but we could put in the memo, see supplemental budgets for other budgets that may be considered for EMS.
So how it's normally handled for the joint committees and commissions is we, staff, we don't make a recommendation on making any cuts per se unless we're directed to. So whatever's recommended, we show how you would fund it should you choose to approve it. So that's essentially what we do for those. But, and that'll show up in an administration proposed budget. But we can come up with and work with Chief Lang on having supplemental materials for the memos if you'd like.
Matt, are we looking at adding any positions in the village next year?
I'm not. Department heads are free to make requests, but
One last question. The maintenance of effort for those from the state, that's all safety services, right? Like, so you have to at least maintain your current, and then, so that we'd kind of be setting a
There's,
new.
yeah, there's three
Ceiling.
buckets. There's
Yeah.
training, there's total dollars, and then there's like service levels. What I've heard most communities from service level is per capita you're keeping up. So that's one that like sometimes we fluctuate, but you have to hit two of them. So our dollar amount's increasing every year. We have no problem with that. And then the training levels, both chiefs verify that and submit that form.
So then, service level per capita, that's just like, right? Is that
That's
what you're
just one where as we grow, if we're not adding staff, in theory, the service level is going down.
saying? And that includes like, administrative overhead costs, or that's just, I might be getting into the weeds and maybe it's not.
It's typically, DOR views that as a department, so like
Mhm.
police department, so that would encapsulate administrative overhead.
Okay. Well, because we have to maintain our, our our maintenance of effort in order to get our state funding. So that was newly added, that was last year, I think, in the municipal, like helping municipalities with state funds.
So what concern do you have with regard to this position and discussion?
Well, we
As
kind of
far
talked
as-
about now there's a new ceiling, like we added the new position, you'd never cut it.
We didn't
back,
add it,
because
right?
we-
It was
right.
budgeted, but it
But
wasn't added.
if there was a position that was added or budgeted, like, you wouldn't cut it because you didn't need
Right.
it, because you would also lose state funding also.
Right. So we gotta be careful.
Okay. So I'm going to reach out to Deerfield and the town, and there's going to be a gathering of information, but the budget review process is going to continue on Monday. And in the packet for that is going to include the EMS budget that went through the commission. But then there's going to be additional information on the cost to continue if there was a 20-hour-a-week position, if it was a full-time position, which is the budget that was approved. And then there's going to be further information about surrounding communities and what that office manager looks like in surrounding communities. There's going to be an allocation of percent efforts to the assigned duties and responsibilities. There's going to be further discussion, obviously, at the EMS Commission next meeting, most likely with a separate agenda item discussing it. What did I miss and what's not clear? Cameron, and Matt, do you feel like you have enough for budget review from what the village staff need to do? Okay. Chief, do you have an understanding of what the village board is requesting in terms of information?
I believe so.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Cindy, I would just share the two alternate budgets that are being considered with what officially has been requested with Deerfield and the town. Obviously, this has to be unanimous.
Mm-hmm.
And really, a cost to continue budget, it's going to be, if we don't come to an agreement, this is the default.
Right.
So I think that budget's important regardless.
And it's the default to last year, including the capital, right? So we had a big increase. No? The way that it was set up, so
I think the IGA excludes capital, increases costs related to wages, and that's the budget if the communities don't get.
so it would take into account the increase from the,
It would remove capital, update the formula to the current year, and inflate wages to both the steps and what the
and the
new unit.
contract.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on Deer Grove EMS? All right. How about landfill? Renee?
I have the minutes pulled up from the meeting, sure. I have the draft ones that I submitted for next meeting. So we met on September 22nd, and we approved the bills, and then we talked with Strand about the next year's contract, and Tina from Strand provided us with the monitoring kind of program and gave us a highlight of results over time of monitoring the gas vents, the gas probes, and groundwater. And they've been all trending in a good direction over time. They monitor for different precursors to VOCs, and we don't have any parameters of concern outside of the landfill currently. They do monitor private wells to make sure there's nothing getting into private wells, and plan to continue these services for 2026. So we approved the contract with them for 2026. So no news is good news, and hopefully the monitoring will find that continuing next year.
Questions for Heidi or Renee? All right, how about Cottage Grove Fire District Commission, which also has two discuss and considers, and just kind of like with EMS, I was hoping we could do a review and then wait till budget review process to formally consider these budgets. But whoever would like to give the update.
I can give the update, yeah. So the discuss and consider, 7 vendors were contacted without any response, as we've discussed. Let me see here. We have, as far as Nichols Electric quote, taking that out of the ESB fund, high-tech heating, talking about adding return duct, humidifier, again, taking that out of the ESB fund. Discuss and consider restriping, and that was decided to take out of the ESB fund. Budget and the actual, there was no motion taken on that. That was, let's see here. And we agreed to budget the $56,000 with the emergency services building budget. Cameron, am I missing any other big budget?
No, you captured everything. I think there was a lot of decisions. So what the fire commission was asked to do was really kind of strategically plan the use of the emergency service fund. There was a ton of projects that were kind of pent up. A lot of those projects were either taken care of or will be taken care of in the short term. There was, like Renee mentioned, there was two very different quotes for generator prices in the agenda as kind of the earmarking those funds that are in there right now for that future purchase. Obviously, they don't want to put the new generator on a station that might look different, either remodeled or reconfigured. But those quotes were to give us an idea of what we have to kind of plan for and have set aside. So at least the intent that I understood is that we won't be dipping into that emergency service fund account anymore because we increased the building maintenance and the operating fund request to cover those more routine replacements. Very good meeting and really kind of 2 years worth of work on that fund.
Yeah, and I don't think, the discuss and considers on the agenda, there really wasn't any disconnect, so I think it can go through the normal budget process and we should be fine.
And I know Chief is here. I don't know if you have anything you want to add about commission or just because you're here. Okay.
No, I was just here if you had any questions on our budget or anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
See you Monday instead. All right. Other comments or questions for fire? All right. Then we'll move on to law enforcement. Chris.
We met Tuesday, September 23rd at Village Hall. We approved the minutes. We approved a budget. We got the chief's reports, which are all there in the agenda if anybody's interested. And we adjourned.
Any questions for Chris? Law enforcement or chief? All right. Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Committee, Heidi.
Thank you. We met on Thursday, September 25th, and we are, the main part of our meeting was to talk about the 2026 budget, which you will get in more detail, starting with the Budget Review Committee and then the Village Board workshop. So we did recommend going forward with the budget as presented, and then Sean gave an update with the Shady Grove Park, that moving ahead with those plans. The neighborhood picked the playground, so that's ready to go out to bid, and I don't think the bid opening's happened yet, but we can always rebid if we think it'll be more favorable in the spring. And the budget was pretty much the main part of our meeting.
All right, Sean, do you want to say something?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Turn your microphone on. All right, any comments or questions for Heidi on parks? All right, so how about Flynn Hall Committee? We met on Monday, September 29th at 7 o'clock. We went over some of the expense history, capital history, usage summary for the last several years, and kind of took a look at the calendar. What's in the packet tonight is the agenda, but then also the agreement. So the agreement expires mid-January of 26, and so we need to revise the agreement, and we'll have another meeting in November to come together and hopefully approve some type of agreement. There's an option for a closed session tonight under item 12 to negotiate some of the terms of the agreements, and we can have a conversation if the board feels would be appropriate. Actually, we're going to do that. That's okay. We also talked about budget for next year, kind of increasing to $7,500 for 2026, but then we also looked at the rental agreements, and I think that there was, we all kind of came to the consensus, there's some increases that likely need to happen to kind of protect the space a little bit, and a lot better marketing, I think, that could happen so that people know about what Flynn Hall is and how they can use it. And we're going to meet, well, then the one capital item that we determined is needed is a security lock on the kitchen door. And so because sometimes people use the kitchen and then they either don't clean it up, or there can be bad things that happen in the kitchen, and we would prefer a lock on the kitchen door. Any questions about Flynn Hall?
Just to clarify, per the agreement, we only are responsible for 1/3 of that request. So the request isn't $7,500 from the village, it's $2,500.
Okay. But the agreement we can talk about in closed session, and then we're going to meet again, I think it's November 10th. It's sometime during the day or at night, but we're not quite sure. Any questions? How about reports from village officers, village attorney? Nothing. How about the village administrator?
Yes, I've added administrator report here, and plan to, going forward, to include a couple different things, which hopefully is beneficial to the board and any public, just to kind of cover miscellaneous things that occur in the past 2 to 3 weeks, so to cover everything in between board meetings, kind of just meetings and trainings attended, and community involvement, and staff recognition, and things like that. And then in addition, and this will come for the next one, we're working on it, is kind of a project initiative database, which can track everything that we have going on. So another opportunity for everyone kind of see where, kind of a brief description of a project, the status of the project, and any next steps and things like that. So happy to take any questions. A couple things, scrolling towards the bottom of the report, highlighting some staff recognition. I wanted to recognize Chief Gary was recognized internally by his department, nominated by one of his sergeants for some internal medals that they that they do. And those were Excellence in Police and a Meritorious Service Award for his leadership in a critical investigation this year. And our Deputy Parks and Recreation Director, Trista Taylor, she presented at a national conference for Parks and Recreation down in Orlando. And she is also serving on a 3-year term on her board for that professional organization. Assistant Administrator, HR Manager Inga Cushman is on the social media influencers leading engagement team, also known as Smile. I had to be, yes, also known as Smile. And she's presenting at the conference coming up here later this year. And then also in the professional association that I'm also involved in, Inga has been elected as the vice president and treasurer of that association. So nice work for everyone there.
Thank you
That's all
for,
I have unless there's questions.
no, thank you for putting this together. It's good to know, and it's good to know the different things happening with staff and such, so I appreciate it.
Any other comments or questions about the administrator reports? All right, otherwise, we're going to move down to 10, communications and miscellaneous business. We have consider approval of vouchers with the bills list linked in the agenda.
I had one question. So sewer televising and cleaning for $16,800. What was that?
So it's an annual. So annually, we have kind of a budget set aside for going through and actually, so to kind of get an understanding of the state of the pipe, they actually will record and take a picture of it. Kyla, do you want to hit what what else they're doing besides televising?
Yes, I can do that. So we have a maintenance line item that every year we go through, as Cam mentioned, televising, cleaning, as well as, so you clean the pipe, you televise it, and then if there's any kind of big cleaning's a process, but we're doing the entire village over a 5-year period, so then we can verify where we have maintenance issues with mainline, as well as if there's any concrete pipe that we will do a large rehab project after the entire village has been completed.
Yeah. So this is like a $90,000 we do, or $80,000 we do the entire village over a 5-year period. Is that what I understood, Kyla?
That's close to the approximation, yes.
Okay.
But it should be noted that in the past, we would continually televise and clean the same sewer lines, where we are now going through the entire village, which we do not have records for.
Kyla, can you fill in how many miles of pipe is that?
We have 40 miles of sanitary sewer pipe.
It's kind of a dirty job to clean that.
Yeah, I don't recommend watching the videos.
I have the videos if you're interested.
It is a discuss and consider.
I'd make the motion to approve the vouchers as presented.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Murphy, second by Dahl. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Correspondence, I think the village board received just the one email from Kathleen McCann about from the Consumer Federation of America's work on OHV safety and data collection, which you were all CC'd on. Does anyone else have any other correspondence?
I and Cassie had a budget review listening session, so we'll include that feedback in the budget review packet and budget workshop.
Anyone else? All right. Upcoming community events. We could start by talking about the Fireman's Night Golf that actually happened on Friday, but then Heidi and I did win the best, the award for best golf cart decoration.
You did?
Yes, we did.
Congratulations.
It
Which
was
is a great event and a great, yes, like supporting the fire department, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. So
it was very
thank
fun.
you, and Paula was, yes, in charge of setting up and all of that hard work, so
All the
thank you.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, my husband gets a little credit, but he did
He's
all the
not here,
lifting.
so.
Yeah. Thank you. Speaking of fire department, they have a fire prevention open house tomorrow night. So invite the community in, take a look at the trucks, and learn. October is Fire Prevention Month, so.
And they continue to have their Tuesday trainings then. I don't know if there's one tomorrow, but it's at the house on the corner of BB and N, so that everyone can come and take a look at what the fire department does and join the fire department if they feel so inclined. You're going to say something. All right. I know that Cottage Grove Family and Schools Organization has Fall Festival this Friday, or Saturday. Yes. Yeah. Chief.
Just going to add a little early, but on October 25th was National Drug Take Back Day. We'll have our usual collection point at MSB from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So anyone's welcome to stop by, drop off, and get some kits also for disposal purposes.
It's kind of a little bit on 10C and D. Associated appraisals in town this week. I'm sure people have seen them around. So they've all been given a letter from us identifying who they are. We did receive a kind of a more formalized timeline from them last week. Wasn't quite enough time for us to get something that we were proud of in the packet for today. So we'll get a draft of that for the next agenda.
All right, speaking of future agenda items, anyone else have anything else they'd like to?
The collective bargaining agreement for the police will be ready for the next meeting. We have reached a tentative agreement, and the union has recently approved it now, so.
Right. With that, we are going to enter into closed sessions for 11, 12, and 13 on the agenda. So this would be the acquisition of property at 616 North Main, the discussing the terms of the Flynn Hall agreement, which is also linked in the agenda. For the Main Street, there was that other memo too, and then the village administrator annual performance review is our third item.
Cindy, can you go ahead and read all of those all the way through?
Yep, I was just going to start.
Oh, I'm sorry. I might have jumped
okay.
that.
So I'll make a motion to enter into closed session regarding possible acquisition of property located at 616 North Main Street as discussed in item 6A. The Village of Cottage Grove Village Board will enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, paren 1, paren E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a roll call vote, please.
Benzo,
Aye.
Dahl,
Aye.
Kel Nelson,
Aye.
Murphy,
Aye.
Severson,
Aye.
Stoa.
Yes.
All right, we will then, I'll make a motion to enter into closed session to discuss the terms of the Flynn Hall agreement as discussed in items 8IA. The Village of Cottage Grove Village Board will enter closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, paren 1, paren E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons required a closed session. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Benzo,
Aye.
Dahl,
Aye.
Kel Nelson,
Aye.
Murphy,
Aye.
Severson,
Aye.
and Stoa.
Yes.
And I'll make a motion to enter into closed session regarding village administrator performance review. The Village of Cottage Grove Village Board will enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, paren 1, paren C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Benzo,
Aye.
Dahl,
Aye.
Kel Nelson,
Aye.
Murphy,
Aye.
Severson,
Aye.
and Stoa.
Yes.
All right, we are in closed session. Anyone else?
Not only are we not going to invite them, but she's going to get rid of them.